part 5 and the final part of 26 things I learned by 26. Practice at looking at people through a lens of primal instinct and biology, not the words they say or the things they claim to stand for. This is something I think I've gotten a lot better at, and it's allowed me to walk through life with a lot less resentment, a lot less fear, a lot less anger. Oftentimes when I'm dealing with people, I'm looking at their primal incentive instead of what they say they want. As an example, if I have a staff member and I know if I have to pick between 2 candidates for a job, and there's one that is 23, male, and there's one that is 35 and female. The 23-year-old male is working at university and is looking to make extra money so he can eventually start his own business. The 35-year-old female is a single mother with another child on the way, and she needs a stable job. Let's just say everything is equal. They both have equal skill set. They both have equal work ethic, etc. Seemingly equal work ethic. The primal incentive for the single mother with another child on the way to work harder than the 23-year-old guy that's a uni student that wants to be self-employed is greater than the uni student. So her primal incentive is stronger. That's because she has more primal pressure to literally provide for a being that's about to come out of her, right? So how does this relate to things I've learned? A lot of times people get really heartbroken and surprised by behaviors people demonstrate. And that's human nature, by the way. You're always gonna get taken off guard. It's human nature sometimes. But one thing that's really powerful is to just understand if someone does you wrong, they're probably doing it out of a state of survival. They're either running away from a fear or they're running towards a reward. And that's not an excuse for people to take advantage of you, but it's to broaden your ability to not empathize, but to really understand the position most people are acting out of, which gives you control. Because as soon as you lose your locus of control, you're now vulnerable to anyone trying to make you upset or angry. So when it comes to women, when it comes to business, when it comes to friendships, one thing that's helped me a lot is just understand the primal incentive. And it's really allowed me to detach from the action that has offended or hurt me, and just to really be like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. This was their underlying incentive, whether they know it or not. Fair enough. Maybe this girl wanted security, and her version of security was seeing me X amount of times a week, and I could not facilitate that because I'm too busy with business. Maybe this male friend of mine tried to, as an example, take money from me, and he did it maybe because he couldn't afford rent, and he knew I was the only person that wouldn't notice if he took X amount of money. This staff member left my company to work for a competitor. Well, they did this probably because they have a child on the way and they needed someone that could give them a higher salary, etc. So this kind of way of looking at things has really allowed me to detach. The next thing, and this is pretty obvious, this one's funny. The importance of walking. As I plan for 2026, and as I start living in my 2026 year, because I like to start my year earlier instead of just in the new year. Walking is really powerful. Walking creates clarity. Walking is healthy. Walking, as simple as it is something that I want to do more of in 2026 because I've noticed the powerful benefits of it. And sometimes a simple reminder of even me saying this to myself is enough for me to change my behavior. Which leads me to the third thing, understanding that behavior changes, depending on what they are, take time is really important to improving relationships. Again, business-wise or relationally. I've had staff members in recent that I've hired that I've been like, why isn't this staff member as fast as this other staff member when it comes to picking things up or changing their behavior? And what I've realized, obviously case by case scenario, is it does take a few weeks, especially when you have a bigger organization, you have a larger group of people. It takes a few weeks for behaviors to change. I'll give you an example. We used to have login times online in like our Slack team at one time, and daylight savings happened recently. So mentally, I knew that it was going to take 1 or 2 weeks for now everyone to adjust to the new time. But me, even at 22, 23 years old, would have been like, guys, like, you've already missed it once. Like, why why are you late again to this second call on Friday? Because we have calls on Tuesday and Friday between the agency. So younger me would have been a bit more frustrated to be like, we already had the thing on Tuesday, by Friday, everyone should shape up. And perhaps they should, maybe I'm too lenient. But now with the staff of approaching 40 people, I'm like, okay, like I understand that maybe 20 people will adjust to the new time on the Tuesday meeting, maybe 30 will adjust by Friday, and then by next week, Friday, so another 2 meetings, after that, everyone should be able to attend. It's the same with relationships. Some people might have behaviors that you don't favor. But if you're in a relationship with someone, it might take them a couple weeks to fully adjust. Like if you don't like getting called a certain nickname, and they've called you that nickname for 10 years, don't get angry at them if they call you that nickname for like a month. Like it's a 10-year habit that they have in their communication with you. So yeah, that's something that's really just helped expand, I think, my empathy and patience. I think it's matured me as well, even in terms of my own behavior, because I'm very strict on myself. And those times when I was in my early 20s where I wouldn't listen to music for 3 months, just like lock in and try detoxes and stuff like that. So sometimes I'll be like, if I can change my behavior, then why can't other people do it? But then when I look back on my life, again, using wider empathy, I'm like, there was times though in my life when I wasn't changing my behavior that quickly, even though I thought I was. Someone else might have perceived that it's too slow, right? So yeah, making sure that you understand that people are usually gonna have a bit of a lag when it comes to changing behavior is really important. Another thing I suggest you do is celebrate wins. People already do this, but I'm not even saying celebrate wins in terms of you hit a certain revenue mark and you go travel somewhere, or you make 100K a month and then like you spend 10K on like clothes. I'm not saying that. Like, look at the way I'm dressed. Like I have a 40 staff person company and I dress like this. Like I'm not saying go crazy with money. What I am saying is, for example, for me, we closed a couple deals last week, 3 new clients, 2 upsells, and my version of celebrating was, okay, like on the drive back, like get a chocolate bar, well done. Just a little dopamine like reminder for hitting that goal. Or when I close like a deal, I'll like stand up and be like, yes. We have like a group section in Slack where it's like new clients, right? Or when our clients get clients, we celebrate it as well. So you need to celebrate wins, and that's really important for culture. It's really important for morale because business and life is hard. And celebrating wins allows us to remember, what progression is like. Because sometimes we don't know it's progression until we look back in retrospect. One thing I've learned, and this one's really powerful, and I've noticed this for a while, and I see this a lot in human dynamics where a lot of people get this wrong. Real influence is subversive. It's under the carpet. It's aggressive, but it's under the carpet, not over, typically. What does that mean? Because that sounds like mumbo jumbo. When people feel like they're losing power in a dynamic, they tend to want to exert their will or power over the other person to make them like, not submit, but to make them listen. It's like, you're not listening to me, so I'm gonna yell louder. But doing that actually demonstrates how much lack of control you actually have. But instead the person that can be like, I completely understand why you're yelling. Doesn't yell back. I completely understand why you're yelling. Fair enough. And you should be upset. Validates them first. And then is like, can I make a suggestion? Then asks for their permission. If they say yes, they've just given you power. They have just given you power. They just put it in your hand. You just open up your hand, they'll have your permission. Boom. Just put it in your hand. But if I was yelling, it's like combative. Yeah, do I have you? I completely understand. In fact, you're right. I was completely wrong with that. Do I have your permission to share a perspective? So I see this a lot, particularly in actually, ironically, I was going to say in male entrepreneurs, but I actually see this in females sometimes trying to like demonstrate their, I guess, aggression. And of course, I see this in a ton of, particularly like young men in their 30s and stuff like that, who are trying to get power in like a corporate atmosphere or even a relationship atmosphere. Overt attempts at control usually demonstrate the least weakness. That's why they say in a room is the person that speaks the loudest, that's usually the weakest. It's usually the quietest, that's the one in control. A mafia boss, he's not gonna be the one to do the dirty work. He'll send people to do it. So it's really important that you understand that if you really want to acquire power, it's going to take a lot of ego death. I have had to kill my ego so many times, still to this day, so many times to, increase power. There was a time on Quasar when we were recording a real life Tinder swiping episode in Gold Coast. It's about 2 years ago, and I was about 23. And the internet on my phone wasn't working. And one of the actors on set said, "Oh my gosh, he's so broke, his internet isn't working," in front of like 40 people. I didn't even say, "I'm Richard." You know what I said? I said, "Sorry, what did you say?" That's all I did. "Sorry, what did you say?" I dared him indirectly to say the same thing in front of everyone, because now he has everyone's attention, which is what he obviously wanted. And I'm not going to call this guy out. I think I still follow him on Instagram. He's a nice guy, but bad move. Younger guys were back then. And he's like, "Oh, no, all good, sorry." And I just thought in my head, I did this. Sorry, what did you say? Then when he said, "No, all good, sorry," I did this. And I just walked off, back to work. Instead of me saying, "Get off my set, how dare you?" What is it? Okay. That's boss shit. You get me? Like, that's how you have to run this thing, man. You can't be too overt, especially if you're a young guy. You need to think long-term in terms of relationships. Which brings me to my next point. Long-term relationships are the gold mines. We got a referral recently for a shopping center, to work with a shopping center. And that was from a 2 to 3 year relationship that I built with an individual that helped facilitate an introduction. So long-term relationships, again, that comes back to the patience thing. That comes back to the ego death thing. That comes back to the subversive and the under the carpet influence. You need to be investing into long-term relationships with people, building with people. And that's why for me, like, sometimes it's not even about the money. It's like, this person of good character, they might be a person that works for me in the future. I might work for them. We might do something together, you know. But life is both long and short. And my metric for kind of, a good friend is, when I have my 5 or 10 kids one day, would I be comfortable with my 5 or 10 kids going on like his private jet with him without me, So long-term relationships, super valuable. And it's only the last 2-3 years where I've really started to notice the compounding effect and benefit of long-term relationships. Another one which is really important, and I see this, once you start getting momentum, don't not want to help people on the come up. I see this a lot, especially with young entrepreneurs in their 20s and 30s. Once they get a bit of momentum or a bit of clout, all of a sudden they don't want to help the other person that's on the way up. It's like they forgot what it was like or how hard it was to get that initial momentum on those relationships. One thing I think I do try to do, and maybe I need to improve on this, is I'm always open to, for the most part, assisting in terms of advice or supporting the person that's trying to do it from scratch. 18, 17, 16, 19 years old, following them on Instagram. "Hey man, this is how I did it. Here's a 5-minute voice message of what I did. Here's what I recommend." I literally told someone yesterday, I was on the phone with on Friday or Thursday, so not yesterday. Young guy, 23, other part of the country. And he's at uni, he's an agency. He was telling me some of his bottlenecks. And I was like, "Bro, listen, like, at the stage you're at, just become really good at sales." Like, I was telling him, look, I basically got to 40K a month with like nearly no ads, just like cold calling. I was like, it's not easy. And look, if you want to get to like higher, then you got to have account managers. Like, I've got nearly 7 account managers now. But you can get to 40K a month with like primarily just sales. You don't need maybe 1 or 2 account managers, because he had a limiting belief of like, oh, like it's da da da. So I enjoyed having that 1 hour, 1.5 hour conversation with him, because I was like, I get it. It's hard. And I respect it, because I remember what it was like to be 23 and to be stuck at like 15, 20K a month for a while. So always bring up the people on the come up, 33% of the time with people that are above you, 33% at your level, 33% below. And in terms of business, for the sake of this conversation. Very important. And it grounds you, and it shows you, and it reminds you some of the things that you did to progress. Another thing I've learned is the importance of sincere gratitude. And what I mean by that is not just affirmations and, the rah-rah. It's more just genuinely being grateful. For me, sometimes when I'm like having a more challenging, I wouldn't even say day, I don't think I have challenging days, I think I have like challenging like 5-10 minute periods. Is I'll remember like, I'm in Australia, I get to eat. I have a chef, like bro, what? That's crazy. I have a freaking chef. I live in a safe apartment. I have water. I can get to the gym. And worst case comes to worst. This may be a bit like more fragile and transparent with you guys. If I lost everything today, I could go back to corporate and get a 250K a year job. Like at the end of the day, I'm skilled. Maybe even $500,000 a year job. Maybe even $1 million a year job. And that's not me beating up myself at 26. I'm just being like, I have the skill set. I can be a producer. I can be a marketer. I can be a director of sales. I can be a CMO. Like, I can be a CSO, chief sales officer. Like, I have the credentials. If everything breaks, I can get a job. If everything breaks, I know I can get back to like 20, 40K a month, just of like cold calling at the end of the day. Or I could move to Bali, move to somewhere really cheap and just like work for a US company. And then I'm like, my life, the money I'm making relative to where I'm living is like so much. If I'm making 20, 30, 40K USD a month, and I'm living in Bali at 26, basically a millionaire in Bali. So sometimes you need to zoom out and be really grateful for the perceived little that you think you have and understand that it's actually a lot. And the final thing, guys, that I've learned and that I've always known is how important it is to believe in God. Life will test you in ways that you don't understand. Life has tested me in ways I didn't understand this year, not business related. Well, business has been tricky, but we've still grown, but that's always tricky. But in terms of personal stuff, and no matter how much you know, you'll realize that you don't know, and you won't ever know everything. So oftentimes it's better just to submit and be comfortable in you not knowing everything. And that's why, I believe in God in many ways. That's one of the main reasons. And it's done me well to submit and to release. And I think that's also a principle, being able to release also gives you a feeling of comfort because it's beyond you and you're giving it to something that's, beyond imagination. So those are the 26 things that I've learned by 26. And I look forward to sharing with you guys the 27 things I learned by 27 in a year's time. I might not even be living here again, but it's crazy because this is such a big lifestyle increase, this apartment. But I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you guys. Thank you guys that have supported me since I was 19, 20 years old. It's crazy.